In January 1988, a man inside Taiwan's nuclear establishment did not come back. His name was Chang Hsien-yi. He was not a president, not a famous general, not a public dissident standing in front of cameras. He was a senior official at INER, Taiwan's Nuclear Research Institute. The kind of man whose importance came from what he could see, what he could enter, and what he knew. His colleagues expected him at work. There was a meeting. There was a clock. There was a normal morning that was supposed to begin like any other. Then, Chang was gone. His family was gone. The house was empty. And inside that absence was a question big enough to reshape Taiwan's future. How did a man disappearing in January 1988 help end Taiwan's secret nuclear option and push the island toward a very different kind of survival strategy? To some people, Chang would become a traitor. To others, he would become the man who stopped a catastrophe. But before anyone could judge him, they had to understand the secret he had walked away from. Taiwan's nuclear story did not begin with fantasy. It began with fear. Across the strait was the People's Republic of China, ruled by the Chinese Communist Party, a state that claimed Taiwan and had the power to threaten it. The target here is that coercive state power, not Chinese people. In 1964, the PRC tested a nuclear weapon. In 1971, Taiwan lost its seat at the United Nations. In 1972, Washington moved closer to Beijing. By 1979, the United States had formally recognized the PRC. For Taiwan's leaders, the message was brutal. Beijing was getting stronger. Taipei was becoming more isolated. And the American shield, the one Taiwan depended on, was not something Taiwan fully controlled. That fear did not make a nuclear option right. It made it tempting. Taiwan was not yet the democracy it would become. It was still an authoritarian state, trying to survive one external authoritarian threat, while carrying its own internal authoritarian machinery. That is the trap at the center of this story. Taiwan feared being erased by Beijing. It also feared being managed, abandoned, or restrained by the ally it needed most. So somewhere inside that fear, a secret answer began to form. The secret answer was not a finished bomb sitting in a warehouse. That is the wrong image. The more dangerous thing was an option. A weapons-relevant nuclear program, a path, a set of facilities, skills, materials, and institutions that could shorten the distance between a political decision and a weapon. The center of the story ran through civilian-looking nuclear infrastructure. INER, the Taiwan Research Reactor, fuel cycle work, hot cell and reprocessing concerns, and connections to military research structures. On paper, much of this could look technical, scientific, peaceful. But the question was never just what a reactor was called. The question was what the system could become. And Chang mattered because he was inside it. He was the kind of insider who could know which building mattered, which paper trail mattered, which assurances were public language, and which doors led toward the real option. For an outsider, this could look like a maze of acronyms. For Chang, it was a map. And if that map ever left the island, Taiwan's secret would not stay secret for long. Washington had already seen enough to worry. In the 1970s, US officials and international inspectors focused on Taiwan's sensitive nuclear work. The concern was not that Taiwan had announced a bomb. The concern was that Taiwan was building pieces of an option it was not supposed to have. The United States was Taiwan's protector, but it was also Taiwan's leash. America wanted Taiwan defended from the PRC state. It did not want Taiwan making a nuclear move that could pull the whole region into crisis. A nuclear Taiwan might not calm the strait. It might make Beijing more dangerous, force Washington into decisions it did not choose, and turn a local survival strategy into an international emergency. So Washington pulled Taiwan back. Under US and IAEA pressure, Taiwan accepted restrictions, rollback, and the return or control of sensitive material and activity. For a moment, it looked as if the line had been held. The patron had warned the client. The door had been closed. But the fear that opened that door had not disappeared, and closed doors can be reopened. The secret option did not stay buried. Through the 1980s, weapons-relevant work returned or persisted in the shadows. Facilities, technical pads, and military pressure kept the question alive. According to later reconstructions of Hao Pei-tsun diary material and participant interviews, senior military figures wanted a capability that could move quickly after a political decision. That does not mean Taiwan had a finished bomb. It does mean the program had entered a more dangerous moral zone, because now the old pattern was repeating. Taiwan feared Beijing, Washington feared an uncontrolled Taiwan, and Chang was inside the place where those fears met. He was not just a name waiting for the January 1988 calendar. He was a man with access to the system, while the system was becoming a liability. He could see what had survived. He could understand what had been hidden. He could connect the public denials to the private machinery. And if he decided the hidden option was the danger, then the danger to the program was no longer outside the building. It was inside the building. Later accounts describe Chang as a CIA source before his departure from Taiwan. The official details remain classified or contested. What matters for the story is what is clear enough. Chang was a senior insider. He left Taiwan with his family in January 1988. And after he left, Taiwan's secret nuclear option became an American crisis. This is where the easy labels fail. If you see Taiwan only as a small island facing a much larger authoritarian PRC state, Chang can look like a man who betrayed Taiwan's last resort shield. If you see Taiwan's government in that era as an authoritarian state pursuing a weapon that could endanger its own people, Chang can look like a whistleblower. If you see the CIA relationship first, he can look like an asset. If you listen to Chang's later defense of his choice, he can look like a man who believed he was protecting Taiwan from the weapon it thought it needed. The same act can look like betrayal, conscience, espionage, and prevention. That is why the choice still burns. Then, January started moving fast. Chang disappeared from Taiwan. He reached Washington. One day later, President Ching-kuo died, and Li Tenghui inherited a crisis already in motion. That timing is dramatic. It is not proof of causation. History sometimes stacks events so tightly that they look like one machine. A responsible version has to separate the calendar from the cause. What can be said is this. Within days, US officials were pressing Taiwan's new leadership and military command. AIT Director David Dean met General Hao Pei-tsun. Washington pushed for the shutdown of the Taiwan research reactor path and the dismantling of weapons-related activity. This is the 10 days in the title. Not 10 days to physically erase every facility. 10 days for the secret option to collapse as a practical political path. A missing insider. A succession crisis. An American confrontation. And a program that had survived in the shadows, suddenly forced into the open. The bomb had not exploded. When people imagine a bomb vanishing, they imagine a blast, a countdown, or a weapon lifted from a vault. Taiwan's secret option disappeared differently. It vanished through procedure. The Taiwan research reactor was shut down. Heavy water was removed and sent to the United States. Sensitive infrastructure was disabled. Reports indicate that a suspected reprocessing site was rendered unusable through a large concrete fill operation. Institutional links were cut back. INER was separated from military research structures. Inspectors, officials, documents, shipments, seals, and bureaucracy ended the path. This was not Chang alone killing the program. His defection was the immediate trigger inside a larger system of American pressure, Taiwanese dependence, international scrutiny, and political transition. The US role was both protective and controlling. Protective against a catastrophic nuclear crisis, and controlling because Taiwan's survival depended on a patron that limited its tools. Afterward, Chang did not become a clean hero. He became a wound. Taiwanese critics called him a traitor. He was placed on a wanted list. The anger was not hard to understand. For people who believed Taiwan needed every possible shield against Beijing, Chang had helped expose one of the most secret shields of all. But that is not the whole moral picture. The Taiwan that built this program was not today's democracy. It was an authoritarian-era state, with its own history of control, fear, and secrecy. Chang's choice cut through both realities at once. Taiwan's external fear was real. The PRC and CCP states' coercive claim over Taiwan was real. But the danger of the nuclear path was real too. What does loyalty mean when the state is threatened from outside, authoritarian inside, and reaching for a weapon that could invite the disaster it is meant to prevent? Chang later described his choice as an act for Taiwan's people. Others never accepted that. That conflict did not disappear. It stayed as a scar in Taiwan's story. And Then the story turns. Because while Taiwan's secret option was collapsing, another machine was already being built in plain sight. Not in a hidden nuclear institute, in science parks, in research labs, in clean rooms. Taiwan's semiconductor rise was already underway before the 1988 rollback. UMC had spun out in 1980. TSMC was founded in 1987 as a dedicated foundry rooted in Taiwan's technology strategy. This was not a formal trade. Taiwan did not sit down in 1988 and swap nuclear weapons for chips. The safer truth is more interesting. Taiwan had been building two answers to the same fear. One hidden in a nuclear institute, another growing in Hsinchu, in silicon, in factories that would eventually connect Taiwan to the entire world. One answer was shut down. The other kept growing. The bomb was the secret answer. Semiconductors became the public one. And over time, that public answer became something no secret weapon could be. A reason for the world to keep looking at Taiwan. Decades later, people would give Taiwan's semiconductor importance a name, the Silicon Shield. It is a powerful idea, but it is not magic. It is not a treaty, not a force field, not a guarantee. Taiwan's survival problem did not disappear when the nuclear option vanished. Beijing still tries to shrink Taiwan's choices. The PRC and CCP state still treats a free, self-governing Taiwan as a problem to be pressured, isolated, and eventually absorbed. America still protects Taiwan, and America still constrains Taiwan. The island still lives inside the same brutal geometry. Too small to dominate its neighborhood, too important to ignore, too democratic to surrender its future quietly. That is what makes the Chang story more than a spy story. It is a story about a society trying to survive without becoming the thing it fears. An authoritarian-era state reached for a secret answer. A democracy later became central to the world's most public machine. The bomb vanished. The question remained: how does a small island make itself impossible to erase?